Oh, hey there. What is this? Fishing lures in the back. Dollar store fishing lures. Good afternoon, everybody. I was going to start with Dylan Mulvaney, but our guests are in the back. But don't worry. We'll be getting to a couple of. They are distractions. They're going to be like the sorbet in between meals that cleanses your palate so that we can have a bit of a laugh at the lamentable state of the universe while we internally cry at the lamentable state of the universe. Today's show, short notice, as always, it's Monday, and I was going to take the day off and just cut clips from yesterday's stream. The world does not cease to continue spinning. Jason Lavigne and Patriot Smoothie are in Ottawa at Tamara Lich's trial. So they have some time. I said we're going to bring him on right now to do an update in that trial. The witnesses of the day, this is Tamara Lich's and Chris Barber. Mischief, incitement of mischief, yada, yada, yada. Okay, look, while everyone trickles in, share the link around. I'm going to blast it back out on Twitter. We got in the backdrop Jason Lavigne and Patriot Smoothie, whose name, I don't know his real name. So we're going to have to find that out first and foremost. Okay. So starting off the show, Tamara Lich, Jason, and Patriot Smoothie, bringing you in 3, 2, 1. Gentlemen, how goes the battle?
The battle's going awesome here, Viva. It's a great day. The sun's out. Everybody's out. We saw Tamara. We saw Chris. We got to spend some time with them this morning. They're in great spirits. They don't seem to be worried. They did let us know, though, that it looks like there's going to be additional days packed on again. So we're not sure how long this particular trial is going to last. But now we're on to Zexi Lee, who seems to be the star witness for the Crown at this stage, especially with her class action lawsuit that she brought up during some of the testimony.
Well, hold on. Before we even get there, we're at day 16. That is day 16 of Tamara Lich and Chris Barber's mischief, incitement of mischief, obstruction of justice. Okay. And we're not even, we don't even know how much is left because they're going to reschedule for next week, looking into December. First of all, Jason Lavigne, everybody knows who you are, but just in case, give us the elevator pitch.
Sure. I'm a podcaster out of Alberta. I do Breath in Alberta. I do a podcast twice a day, every day. Not on your times. I go and make sure that you're on as well. I cover a lot of the Coot situation, the Alberta lawsuits, especially the Ingram decision. So I flew out here, actually drove out here to catch up with Tamara and Chris to follow this trial. And I'm also going to stick around for the Pat King stuff later, too. So I'll be around for a little while. And then
Patriot Smoothie.
Yeah. So my name's John. I know you were wondering there, Viva. So it's John. Go by Patriot Smoothie. I'm an independent reporter and a political commentator. I've been covering this trial since the first day, so I've witnessed a lot of the things that have happened here, and I'm happy to be on.
All right, so Patriot Smoothie, you've been there since day one for 16 days of this trial. And the funny thing is, I was catching up on it this morning, and I watched your 12-minute video from outside the courthouse. Okay, so let's just summarize where we're at in this trial. This is Tamara Lich, Chris Barber. It's mischief, incitement of mischief, obstruction of justice. We're in day 16. Is it still the prosecution presenting its case?
Yes, it is. So I'll just give you a brief synopsis of the situation. So yes, it is day 17 today, actually, just to get that out, and that's fine. And it's still the Crown's case. The Crown was supposed to originally have 10 days, and the defense was supposed to have 6. The trial was scheduled to end this last Friday. Clearly, that hasn't happened. Pertaining to dates, we know that we have the entirety of this week all set up. But after this Friday, we don't know where it's going from there. We don't know. We were thinking that it was going to be most of October, except for a 3-day break, and then the 1st of November. That's all out the window. So I'm not comfortable talking about dates anymore. It seems to change by the day. I suspect we're going to need more than just this week, as the Crown, again, the defense has a 6-day case to make. That was before the inclusion of these 8 additional witnesses, which we are hearing from the 6th of those right now, Zexi Lee. We've got 2 more civilian witnesses today to hear from of that package. So I anticipate that it's a possibility the defense will end up calling additional witnesses other than the ones they may have intended. They indicated this earlier in the trial, that if they were going to have people come out and testify, I didn't like the protest, I experienced terror, I had smells invading my property, and so on, that the defense indicated they would then potentially call other witnesses to speak to how they enjoyed the protest or how it made them feel hopeful at a time where they'd given up on everything. For scheduling, it's very unclear what's going to happen from this point. As far as what we've seen in the trial so far, again, what I just kind of touched on, people speaking about the smell of things, about diesel and gasoline and how it would. One person literally said it invaded the church. One of the witnesses on Friday or Thursday said it invaded her church property, invaded it like a marching. And I added on the commentary like an invading army. That's the imagery in my head. And then a lot of the witnesses, and I'll let Jason speak to today's witness because I'll let him have that. But a lot of the witnesses using the word occupation and my space was occupied. Even on Friday, we had a witness from OC Transpo, Natalie Hano, who's an event coordinator. She's somebody there. I found the first part of her testimony before the afternoon break very matter of fact, it was just like, okay, we detoured these roads. We had to do it because buses need longer areas to turn. After that break, I found her testimony kind of changed a little bit. And she was using the word, she used the word occupied to describe the corner of Rideau and Sussex. We've heard a lot about that corner. And that the LRT door was closed there because that space was occupied. So that was an interesting.
What's LRT?
So that's the light rail transit service here in Ottawa. And actually, funnily, you mentioned that. Greenspun had a little bit of a joke there. He's like, you are aware, he's like, you describe the LRT as a service, you are aware you are under oath. So because we have a lot of issues in Ottawa with the LRT.
I'm old enough to remember when Occupy Wall Street was a good thing and not a bad thing. I mean, it's so preposterous. Okay, but hold on. Back it all the way up a little bit. They've been on, the prosecution has been presenting its case for 16 days. That is nothing short of astonishing. Have there been technical delays that have resulted in just wasted days in their entirety?
Oh, for sure. We've had a lot of issues with the television system inside the court and getting it to sync up properly between the 2 or 3 television screens in the courtroom. That has costed hours of delays. We've had other issues, but that's the big one that sticks out for me. There's been issues because of the legal arguments. There's been a ton of legal arguments, which I'm not going to go into heavily. I'm not a legal expert, but there's been a lot of delays because of these arguments. So everything is...
Okay, now, and 16 days. So hold on, I just lost my window. Who has the prosecution brought up? I know that they had their investigator there. He was there for what, 5 days?
Sure. They've called up quite a few police witnesses. They've called up, from the top of my head, homicide detective, OPS, homicide detective.
OPS is Ottawa Police Services, homicide detective.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Ottawa Police Inspector Russell Lucas, Ottawa Police Service Officer Barlow. Sorry, forget his first name. Sword of Quebec, Captain Martel, if I recall correctly. He was testifying about the guys in the olive suits and their actions during the police clearing. So he was speaking to that. So we've had police witnesses. We've had some city witnesses, including Kim Ayotte, the current general manager for the city of Ottawa when it comes to emergency services and preparedness. He also testified at the POEC, you may recall. We also had another city witness. We had the former chief of staff to former Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson, Serge Arpin, testify. So we've heard from quite a variety of witnesses at this point, including the residences from Thursday and Friday testifying against the convoy leaders.
And what is the bulk, without getting into the details, what's the essence of the testimony of all of these people? That there was a protest, it caused some obstruction on the streets, and that's
sure,
about it?
This is something the defense was admitting to from the beginning with the admissions too. They were trying to admit that there was a disruption of the enjoyment of property in Ottawa during the protest. And they've admitted that. They've admitted there was a disruption. The Crown, of course, has rejected that admission because they say they framed it to their benefit, and the judge agreed with them ultimately in that to lead their case as they see fit. So, but I think it's a good thing. But the testimony we're hearing, Viva, is concerning the horns, the noises, the smells. A couple people testifying about urination and feces, including today. I'll let Jason touch on that and other things, but no allegations of serious violence. In fact, I remember because I believe it was OPS Inspector, Ottawa Police Service Inspector Russell Lucas was testifying, and he mentioned swarming constantly, the language swarming. My officers, he's in charge of bylaw services, not police. He's like, my officers felt unsafe. My officers were swarmed. And on cross-examination, I believe it was Diane Magus who said, when you say swarming, you don't refer to a violent altercation. No, there was a verbal exchange. So very important. There's a picture being painted with the language here that doesn't match the reality of what happened. We're hearing words like occupation, which is, of course, legally a armed takeover of an area and the transfer of power to that armed takeover, right, by an armed force that completely takes over the area. That's the legal international definition we've heard in court several times. That's not what happened. They said they felt occupied, the witnesses, that they felt like their space was taken from them. That's what we're hearing.
Okay, so I mean that's an amazing use of 16 days of trial time. The big question, so you have all of your police force guys who are going to say that it was terrible. It was an occupation. They parked their cars and people couldn't get through. Except we all know that they could get through with emergency services and everything.
Right.
The debate of the day today was whether or not to allow 8 witnesses to testify. Did that debate occur last week or did it occur this morning?
You're talking about the debate of whether these 8 civilian witnesses were
Yes.
allowed to testify?
Yes.
So that debate has been ongoing for the duration of the trial. The decision was rendered by Justice Heather Perkins McVeigh this last Wednesday. She decided to side with the Crown and to dismiss the defense's application to have these witnesses excluded. So that's why we're having Zexi Lee testify today, for example. That's why we heard from the previous 5 witnesses, and then we have 2 more after her. So that argument's been heard throughout the length of the trial.
Okay. And the basis of the defense's motion to exclude the witnesses, is that to not have them testify or to have them excluded from the courtroom?
So, yeah, to not have them testify, basically, as I understand, and I'm fairly sure this is accurate, the defense's position was more or less that these witnesses' testimony is not legally relevant because they are tendering this admission that the enjoyment of property was interfered with, and they argued that these witnesses would have no more probative sort of value to add to this other than, and they wouldn't have a tremendous amount of specifics. They would speak to feelings or to impact. As we heard, there were concerns from the defense that these testimonies would divulge into what essentially is an impact statement, which would, of course, only be legally necessary if and when there's a conviction at the end of trial. So they were concerned about impact being introduced during the trial, impact statements, and that the evidence would have limited legal relevance in consideration of the admission that they've made.
Okay.
The judge did not agree.
No, typically the judge would want to err on the side of allowing more evidence than dismissing or not allowing evidence. So understood. You get these 8 witnesses. They're civilians. Are they all members of the class action lawsuit that is currently pending?
So interesting question. The defense is, I've noticed a very specific line of questioning from the defense concerning these witnesses. And it would come, the first question they ask is, are you aware of a class action lawsuit in Ottawa? And then the second question, if they said yes, would be, have you, without any details, because of privilege, I assume, have you taken any steps to participate? Mm-hmm. And so of the 5 witnesses we've heard from so far before Zexi Lee, which I'll allow Jason to talk about, the previous 5 witnesses, 3 of them have admitted that they've heard of it and that they are participating in some way. And
not to say that it wouldn't contradict their testimony, but it would certainly make it motivated that they have to testify here in a way that supports and doesn't contradict their. For those who don't know, it's a class action lawsuit against the protesters, the organizers, I think some of the businesses who participated, and I think it's a $350 million class action lawsuit now.
It's a lot of money, whatever it is. At least 300 million.
It's hundreds of millions. It started off as 10 million, and now it's much more. I think somebody's hoping for a payday. All right, and so today we had 5 of those witnesses, including Zexi Lee, who is the young federal employee. I was trying to find some information on her, not in terms of doxing, but rather potential political motivations. Federal employee. Jason, do we know anything about Zexi Lee as an individual, as a human, as a potentially political party in this lawsuit?
No political party information, but we know she's a resident. She works for CRA, so she's a data analysis, and she enters in data for the CRA.
CRA, for those who don't know, is Canada Revenue Agency. There's probably a lot of Americans watching. So she works for the government in terms of collecting taxes. Okay. Sorry, go on, Jason.
We did hear from her, though, that she had difficulties working. She couldn't sleep, and it was interfering her work as she was a remote worker at the time. But let me set the stage for you there, Aviva. The very first thing that happened was she wasn't in the courtroom when she was called, and then she was escorted in by 2 large security guards who are police officers to protect her. So from the very, very, very moment she walked in, she's victimized. She's definitely going to be protected, and she went and sat down and started giving her testimony.
Now, let me stop you there, though. Were other witnesses also escorted in with police? Is this protocol to bring them in, or was this unique to Zexi Lee?
So I can speak to that question. The previous witnesses, typically the I don't know what you would call it, but the officer who sits with the Crown would sometimes come and get them. But with this particular witness, I've noticed an additional officer, and the judge said herself, we have 2 officers with her. So there is an additional officer for her. But there is typically one, and he's a larger man who will go out and get them.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like not a bailiff, but a court. It's a court dude who.
As I understand it, these detectives are just there for the Crown's case, and that there is a regular uniformed officer at the back of the court who is acting as the court officer, to my understanding.
That would be the bailiff.
Yeah.
So
all right. So Zexi Lee has extra security coming in because she's perceives herself to be something of a target for whomever, that violent protest that swept up the sidewalks, insulted the sidewalks, and fed the homeless. Okay. Sorry. So, sorry, Jason. So carry on. We were at Zexi Lee coming in to testify.
Yeah, so what I noticed with her immediately is she was using the scary word. So occupation came out quite a few times, so many times that the defense actually objected to it, had a conversation in the absence of Zexi Lee, so she had to leave the courtroom. And the Crown was also kind of conceding that, yeah, we should be using demonstrators or protesters. So then when she returned, she was instructed to use those words instead. But what I also noticed there, Viva, is it sounded like the statement of claim from the class action lawsuit. So she hit all the major words. She said she saw an ambulance blocked, she saw roads blocked, she saw intersections blocked, she saw feces and urine everywhere. She saw jerry cans in the back of a car or truck. She even mentioned how she thinks there was an air horn. And then when the defense probed her on that one and asked whether or not she saw one, she said no, she just presumed there was one under her tarp. But it did seem like she was going through her statement of claim, making sure that all of the items that are in statement of claim are also mentioned during her examination in chief here. And the judge wasn't taking too kindly to some of the words she was using. She did get reprimanded a little bit on sticking to non-inflammatory words, as the judge put it. So I did appreciate that the judge was looking for facts, not feelings on this one. She wasn't allowing narratives to enter into the conversation or into the testimony. So she was doing a good job on keeping the narrative out. And each time Zexi had trouble understanding the question and starting getting into her interpretation of the question, the judge or the defense would clarify that for her. So I did see a lot of guidance from the judge to keep her on facts, not feelings. And there was some speculation that creeped in, but she was able to pull it back. So I did like to see that.
Is she done testifying now?
No. So we're in the middle of the cross-examination now. So examination in chief is complete. We're now in cross-exam. I suspect we'll be done shortly after lunch, and then we'll get back into re-examination. But I got to tell you, the defense is doing a great job.
Well, I was going to ask what the cross-examination, how's that going? Has she had any sort of breakdown moments or a few good men moments?
Well, we had a were you contradicting yourself moment. So when we were trying to clarify how often and how frequent was the horn honking, she said during her testimony that it was consistent every second minute or so it was going. But then she got her dates all mixed up to the point where the defense was able to say, well, you said on the 7th it stopped, it ceased after the injunction, but now you're saying all the way to the 11th it kept going. So when she was probed, she couldn't provide specifics on dates, specifics on durations, times, locations, types of sound. It really started to fall apart under cross-examination, I got to tell you.
Has the cross-examination asked her about her testimony before the Commissioner Rouleau, where they recognized or admitted that they were dropping eggs on the protesters who were parked on their street?
Not yet. But one thing that did come in was she was being asked to clarify whether or not she understood what peaceful, safe, and legal protesting was. And then she tried to obfuscate it, pretty close to the statement of claim if you read it, trying to obfuscate it to be anything she felt it would be. This is where she was excused again. The judge had a conversation with the defense. The proper wording was agreed upon. She was brought back in. And then she was explained again to give the actual observations, not her understanding. And at that time, she had a hard time agreeing with the original injunction. Her lawyer argued, and her lawyer accepted that peaceful, safe, and legal was acceptable. And then after about 3 or 4 times of asking the question from the defense to Zexi, she didn't really confirm that she understood what that meant. So then that's when the defense did bring an affidavit that she signed for the injunction, of the acceptance of the injunction, where she did say in her affidavit she understood what that meant. So that was the way the defense brought that into the record. Couldn't bring it in directly through her, but brought it in through her affidavit from previous court matter. Nothing from the POEC yet, though.
I'm just sending out a tweet right now. Just if any of the cross-examination is watching. But what was the word that she used during the Rouleau commission? She said some of the protesters had their little revenge or little reprisals. I forget the word that she used, but she admitted that they were throwing eggs at the protesters from the buildings. And from what I understand, those eggs were frozen as well, or potentially frozen, which might have caused even more damage.
Didn't give me that testimony yet, but I'll let you know if we get to that this afternoon.
Well, I just tweeted it out. So if anybody happens to see it there, because I'm going to look for the video because I know that I commented on it at the time. Smoothie, you got something to say?
I just wanted to add one thing. I don't. If you want to talk about the testimony concerning the truck incident, if you wanted to mention
absolutely.
that. So I'll let Jason mention
that. So during the examination in chief, she said that there was a truck honking or something along those lines. So she was trying to capture evidence because she felt it was a violation of the injunction. She's capturing pictures for audioable things. I don't get that. But in either case, she said she took a picture of a truck, a pickup truck with jerry cans in the back. So there's one of those magic words, jerry cans. So she got that in there. And then she said it backed into her. This was under examination in chief. Under cross-examination, the defense asked, you testified it backed into you? And she said, correct. He goes, did it touch you? And she goes, no, I moved out of the way. So the vehicle didn't touch you? No, it didn't touch me. Did you call the police? Yes, I called the police. Did you make a report? They took an incident number, but they didn't make a report. So in examination in chief, she really laid it out. That it sounded like that they were trying to attack her with the vehicle by backing into her. But under the cross-examination, it was very clear that no, not only was she not touched, no report was made. And she also didn't specify the date of that when she was asked about that.
Such a traumatic incident.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking of, second question to ask her, did they ask Zexi Lee if the feces and urine of which she was complaining was from the truckers or from the homeless people that were displaced from Ottawa downtown into the rural areas that upset so many people? Have they gotten to that yet?
Well, she testified that she saw it everywhere all the time. She even complained about the snowbanks not being moved, the trash everywhere. She's describing something we've never seen in video, Viva, and you were there.
Oh, yeah.
We've never seen the situation she's describing. I suspect the defense will get to that part after lunch. We're making our way through each of her statements, and we just basically got to the truck statement, and then we have a lunch break.
Okay. All right, so that's fine. And then, I mean, when is the prosecution or the Crown supposed to end with their close their case?
Many days ago. So we are already in an extended time here. And after speaking to Chris this morning and Tamara as well, they did indicate that they're expecting some more additional days from the Crown side.
Go for it, Patriot.
As I was saying earlier, they had originally sounded like in the different the JPTs that had happened and the check-in dates that they had arranged a basic schedule that was tentative. I had received information that it was viable, that it was going to go ahead as I told you it would for the rest of October, last 3 days, and then November 1st. That's out the window. But again, as far as concrete, what I can say is that the Crown still has PLT witnesses to call.
PLT is the power,
plural,
whatever
the liaison team.
Yeah.
Plural.
Okay.
There was a legal issue. So I was under the impression that it was Officer Isabella Sear, and she was earlier in the trial. But as I recall, she never quite completed her testimony, and there was issues. And the big issue there, another legal argument, was the signal chat that these PLT officers had between themselves. There was a whole bunch of confusion leading up to this. At first, the defense thought it was a WhatsApp conversation. Then we learned, okay, it's a signal chat. It's a signal chat. All right, can we have it? Then there was this huge delay in from the beginning of the trial to now, where the Crown is trying to tender the signal chat. In fact, we're still having delays with this thing. So the signal chat in it is between all these PLT officers, police liaison team, Ottawa Police, and they're having what is probably very important communications about the state of what's happening on the ground, which is probably very valuable to everybody and to the truth. But to get it out, it's been a mess. They tried to get this a long time ago. It's still not here. And they're still, so they now have the Crown was like, okay, we'll go through it. We'll make sure there's nothing important in there that can't be shared, and we'll get it to you. So that happened. And as I understand, they probably disclosed most of that. But there's an issue because in those signal chats, there's other things coming up. The officers are sending each other links to emails or attachments. And then those things become issue to like a sub disclosure. So so now we know what that in regards to the email in that signal chat, there's, I believe, somewhere in the 600 emails in these signal chats. The Crown has disclosed a couple hundred of them, but are withholding 400 of them. And so the defense wants those 400 emails. They made it clear, we want everything, give it to us. And the Greenspan was arguing that last Tuesday, he made that request in writing for that stuff because the judge wants everything in writing from this point from a long time ago forward. And that the Crown basically came out, I believe it was on Friday, it was Friday, and said, well, we've looked over the request and we've decided that those emails, those 400 emails they're not relevant. So we're not giving them to you. And the defense is like, what? So they decided, the Crown, that these 400 emails, they say they're duplicates, whatever. The defense wants these emails. The Crown's like, they've requested them, and the Crown's like, no, they're not relevant, so we don't need to give them to you, therefore. And here's the case law. You don't have to give irrelevant disclosure, blah, blah, blah. The judge is like, okay, if you take that position, this was on Friday, Justice Heather McVeigh said, if you say it that way, what's going to end up happening is come Tuesday, when the resident witnesses are done today, Tuesday, tomorrow, come then, we're going to have to delay our PLT witnesses, because this stuff's relevant to their testimony, to their time on giving evidence. This will be relevant to them, in order to have this discussion about yet another problem, a request for disclosure, a disclosure application. So the judge suggested it would be more efficient to just give it all over, let the defense do what they will, and the Crown, the most they were willing to concede was, we'll give them a list of the documents. So we're having a lot of issues, I think, in the smoothness of things.
Who's the judge?
Justice Heather Perkins McVeigh.
All right, Perkins McVeigh.
Perkins-McVeigh, yes.
Okay. And what is your impression of how she is perceiving all of this?
I'll let Jason answer the second part of this, but for the entirety of this trial, she's been evidence-oriented. She's been extremely fair to both parties, and I feel like she's really after the truth here. I feel like she has her sights set on having this thing, as she often says, stay on the rails. Mm-hmm. She wants the truth. She wants both parties to have a fair go, and she wants the evidence to be relevant and probative. So I'll let Jason speak to his experience today with her.
And I would concur with that, Viva. She does seem to be very fair. She wants to use the correct terminology. She doesn't want to use inflammatory words, which is great to see. She didn't allow a delay from the Crown. The Crown asked her to take an early break. She said, no, we're going to keep going. I already have my schedule for the day. And she's pretty adamant that we're going to keep going. Like you said, stay on the rails here. I've seen some judges where you can't tell whether or not they're going to be fair or not. I have a good feeling about this. And I think so far what I've seen, she's going to be a fair judge. And I'll absolutely pay attention and get some work to do on that one.
I'm just trying to see. So I'm looking up McVeigh, or it's McVeigh, McVey, not like Timothy McVeigh. And it looks like she was appointed to the bench in 2009. So I don't know if she's a provincial. No, hold on. She's a federal judge.
Yeah, that'd be Harper then.
Yeah. So okay. I mean, not that politics explains everything, but it tends to be predictive sometimes. Although, I mean, to say she just wants things to go off the rail, and we're 16 days into a bullshit mischief trial.
That's true. But I feel also that there's a lot of stuff in the background that if it doesn't play out the way it is, that it'll create problems down the road. Someone with more legal expertise can perhaps speak to those potentialities, but that's the impression I get, that they're trying to run this thing as neatly as possible.
I just say that if I want to embarrass the prosecution, if I'm a judge, I let him go for 16 to 20 days and make it look like an absolute gong show, as opposed to actually keeping it temporally circumscribed, which is what it should have been in the first place. But who knows? So Zexi Lee is under cross now. They're going to finish with the cross, and then presumably have a redirect. That'll be it for the day, I imagine.
Actually, we were supposed to hear from two more witnesses.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's 1:30 now. We're on the same time zone. You're going to get back in court by 2:15. Cross-examination will go until 3. If it doesn't go further, then there'll be a redirect after a break. So 4:30, we're done.
Now, one thing I did want to highlight here is during her entire examination in chief, I didn't hear her mention Chris did this, Tamara did this, I witnessed Chris do this, I saw Tamara do this. She's not testifying about the defendants directly here. She's just testifying about her experience. And another thing I want to highlight here is she was asked whether or not she was going out. Would she leave her place? She said, yeah, a couple of times a day, sometimes more. And where would you go? I would walk around my neighborhood. I would go and get my groceries. I would do this and that. So she definitely is not painting a picture of someone who's afraid of the protesters, who was afraid about walking around. She was pretty nonchalant and pretty casual about being able to go ahead and do all of that. She also talked about wearing her mask frequently. She said people would bother her and shake their hands at her and stuff like that. But when she was under cross-examination, she couldn't specify dates, times, locations, or anything along those lines of these encounters. And she even kind of changed her testimony from shaking the hands to maybe just showing it once and not multiple times. So we're hearing some things like that change. She does not sound like somebody who was scared and traumatized walking around at all. And then when she was asked whether or not she used public transport or transportation, she said, yeah, normally does, but it was redirected and I didn't use it. I would walk around everywhere.
If I look distracted, it's only because right now on my phone, I'm getting a clip where Zexi Lee hesitated for like, it was a good, I want to play it while we're streaming together so I can do this. So I'm just going to go tweet this and I'm going to say, let me just go like this. When they asked, did you feel unsafe? Listen for the pause, ... You can't ignore it.
Oh, while you're on that, can I add something?
Oh yeah, please.
So while you're on, since you brought it up, being in court today, a lot of the questioning she's being asked, there are significant pauses to her answers.
Yeah.
There's other things too, but
she's showing stress. She's showing stress. She's sighing. She's pausing.
Sighing quite a lot.
Yeah. She's showing stress. Now, whether it's stress because of the day or stress because she's, her multi-million-dollar lawsuit could be on the table here. Who knows? But she's definitely showing some stress.
Well, or the story is nice when you tell it in a class action lawsuit that you have Paul Chump of a lawyer drafting, but when you get cross-examined, it's not exactly the most pleasant thing on earth. Here, hold on, let me bring it up.
Yeah, and that does remind me. There was one part where the injunction came up. So early on in her class action lawsuit, she's the one that got the injunction to get the horn stopped. She didn't put in there fireworks, smell, or any of the other things she's complaining about today. So the defense brought that up and said, look, you had this injunction, you brought up your complaints or grievances, and none of the stuff you're saying here today, other than the honking, is listed here. And she didn't have an explanation for that.
What time do you guys go back? Lunch is over at what?
2:15.
Okay, you got a nice long pause there. Hold on, listen to this. I don't know if I cut the video properly.
Second to the hallway, my bathroom was a little quieter, so I got some peace there as well.
So would you say that you felt unsafe walking the streets?
Listen to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I didn't feel safe, but it's hard to describe it as unsafe.
Yeah, because it would be a lie to do that.
I was actively being so cognizant of my surroundings, and I'm fast. I can move very fast.
Oh, she's
so
there's so many. Sorry, there's so many jokes in here. Yeah, I'm fast. I can move fast. First of all, if you're walking the streets of Ottawa on any ordinary day, you don't feel safe. You see poo-poo and you see piss. Oh, I'm cognizant of my surroundings as well. You should be always. I'll tell you when I was cognizant of my surroundings at the protest when the counter-protesters were around. Hold on, let's just see where this goes.
I was always ready to, take myself out of a situation where something might happen, and
But did anything happen? No.
Like a lot of the times, when they're bouncing their trucks and their cars, and I don't know how to describe it other than like roaring at us, like roaring at me with like these large giant vehicles. It's the idea was to move quick and get where you needed to go.
I can't listen to any more of this.
Well, there's a contradiction right there. So what she said there was the engines were causing the vehicles to shake and bounce. Testimony today was the horns that was causing it to shake and bounce. So there's a contradiction in her testimony.
It's all a load of manufactured victimhood rubbish, is what it is. It's going to segue into one of the stories when you guys head back to court. Oh my goodness! I need to find, if anybody's watching now who can find the clip when she talked about having their little moment of revenge. I know that I commented on it when I was watching that and posted a video, but I don't know how to search on Twitter. Okay, so that's very interesting. It's a joke. It's a sick, sad joke. And Tamara Lich, just so everybody appreciates, this is the Crown. They can go as long as they want. Taxpayer dollars go to the judge. Taxpayer dollars go to the prosecution, the Crown. The only one who's not paying taxpayer dollars, Tamara Lich and Chris Barber.
Well, let's not forget about her security, too. Those are taxpayer dollars.
Oh, my goodness. How Tamara and Chris, they're not talking. They're sitting there watching all of this. Have they made any public statements?
But they're good spirits. Yeah, I asked if they can come on. They can't come on. But they're in good spirits right now. They don't seem to be worried. They're just a little concerned that it's going to be dragged out and then the costs are going to keep ballooning.
That's a feature, not a bug. I mean, that's part and parcel of the process. Sorry, Smoothie.
I can say that with Tamara, specifically having spent a lot of the days sitting behind her in court, she appears very optimistic and hopeful, and she's got this positive energy around her. And you could see that really shine through. Even when she's going through this extremely negative situation, she still manages to be positive. I've never seen her down in the court. I've seen her positive. And imagine just being drugged through this whole thing. Imagine the stress this is causing. But
she was put in jail for aggregate 59 days for this bull crap. I mean, it's. I made a joke. No, this was about what's going on with Trump. I don't know if it's like Banana Republic, Kangaroo Court, Kafka-esque, Orwellian, I'm going to create a new term, Vonnegution. Like it's like from you're Venetian or you're Vonnegution. It's a load of crap. I mean, anybody who doesn't see it and doesn't understand that this is the indication of a broken system, they probably think Hong Kong means Heil Hitler. Okay, so have we forgotten anything, or is there anything you wanted to mention about the Lich Barber trial that I forgot to ask?
I'm good with Tamara. I'm good with that.
So I have just one thing I guess I'll add. It's you know what, we've talked about all the major points. There's a couple of things that we skipped over, but they're not as significant as the things we've talked about. But again, just want to emphasize how the morale, it seems really good. The defense team morale is very good. Greenspan's always cracking smiles and jokes, and Tamara Lich always exuding that positive energy. That it's an aura. It's an aura. It really is. I know that sounds strange, but she's got this way of carrying herself that exudes confidence and positivity. Chris as well. I've spent some time down here. I've been beside me. He's confident and funny as always. It's funny when we were watching his videos earlier in the trial, and he's cracking his jokes, and the whole courtroom would just, he's a funny guy. So you're listening to this guy on his TikTok, and he'll say something, the whole courtroom would erupt in laughter. So there's some positivity for you.
Now, there's also good support here. So a lot of people in the courtroom. There's no protesters or counter-protesters here today. So it seems to be pretty calm and pretty relaxed. And people are just moving on with this trial because it seems to be dragging on for a long time here.
The fact that they remain jovial and good-spirited and optimistic, that's more of a doom pill for me than a white pill, because like they've got no choice. They're stuck in this frickin' system, and they've got no choice but to make the best of it in the worst possible way. Okay, so we're not done yet if you guys have more time, but will you two come back on to give periodic updates as it progresses?
We'll certainly give you more updates on this one, but if you don't mind, I can remind everybody what's happening on Friday in Alberta.
Well, hold on. Before we even get there, though, also, you're there, both of you, during the day. Where can people, we'll say it multiple times, where can people find both of you respectively?
Well, you can find me at the LavigneShow.com. So I do podcast twice a day, every day. And then you can find me on Twitter as Jason Lavigne MP, which stands for media person, member of parliament, or whatever you want it to say, but Jason Lavigne MP.
Lavigne is Lavigne for those who are listening. Okay.
That spells it like I do.
Smoothie.
She took it from you.
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and TikTok. You either just search up Patriot Smoothie spelled here, one word, or if that doesn't work, search up Right Blend. Like a smoothie gets blended in the right way, Right Blend also one word. Either one.
Excellent. So you're doing live tweeting. You're there every day, so everyone should be looking at your stuff for the immediate, what's the word I'm looking for? Contemporaneous updates. Yeah. Now, another big story is the Coots 4. We've talked about this, Jason. You've been on. I've been on your show. Following it, there was, for those who don't, 30,000-foot overview. 4 political prisoners, in my humble opinion. Maybe not everyone shares it. These are gentlemen who have been in jail for damn near 600 days now on conspiracy to commit murder charges of an RCMP officer. The evidence is scant, to say the least. One picture of some firearms, all of which, it seems, maybe with the exception of one, lawful under Canadian law. A big bad... Oh, hold on. The Diagolon... They had Diagolon patches on their things. I got my Diagolon merch that people sent me in the mail. They had a Diagolon patch on one of their vests, which apparently, according to Liar, Pants on Fire Mendocino, was a far-right militia prone to violence, yada, yada. A load of crap, and we all know it. But one of the vests, which we don't even know if it was a ballistics vest, it could have been a fly fishing vest for all we know, had a Diagolon patch, and that's what gave rise to the Diagolon militia nonsense. Those 4 gentlemen accused of conspiracy to commit murder have been in jail, no bail. Whereas that jackass who drove his car into 4 protesters in Winnipeg and attempted to commit murder, he was let out on big bail, but let out nonetheless. Conditions horrendous. Most people don't even know about this. They don't know that they're still in jail, awaiting trial. And there's been some scandals in this prosecution, or I should say persecution, because it seems that there might have been some change of direction of the prosecution, or they might have engaged in conduct that could potentially have been unlawful or knowingly unfair. Detailed in a letter which could potentially break solicitor-client privilege between the Crown and their attorneys as to strategy to prosecute these four men. And I hope that's not too brief or not too detailed of an overview. The content of that letter, which has been subject of a publication ban, confidentiality order, will be opened on Thursday. Jason, if I forgot anything, let me know, but what's the latest there?
Sure. So the big thing here is crime fraud is the term being used, which is a lawyer who gives legal advice for commission of a crime. So this is what we're trying to determine whether or not that is the case. It has been opened, so I can let you know the judge has read it, and the Crown is trying to suppress it. So the arguments on Friday, the 20th, 8:45 in the morning, are going to be whether or not the Crown will be successful at suppressing it. So I'm going to be flying out there on Thursday, so I'll be there on Friday to go ahead and see what happens. Now, I'll find out whether or not we can broadcast or we can publicize what's in the envelope at the time, because a decision might be made at that time to remove that ban. I don't know, but we'll find out. But what we do know is we finally got a date for to find out what's going to happen next. What is going to be the next step about that envelope? So that'll be this Friday, the 20th. Okay,
amazing. And now I think I'm going to have started rumors that I have Diagolon merch that was gifted to me, and I kind of love it. It's funny. It's in the drawer underneath my computer because I keep everything that people send me. All right, that's amazing, gentlemen. We shall keep in touch, and I shall keep following you for the up-to-date stuff. One last word to sign off, both of you. What do you want to say?
Well, I can give you a quick update about the new convoy. So I went to the camp the last couple of days to check it out.
Okay, I saw some pictures about this. Okay, there's more honking again in Ottawa.
Yeah, no, they're not honking in Ottawa. There were some Palestinian protesters honking. I got a ticket. I witnessed that, but no trucker or convoy or even Chris Tamara related protesters. There's a lot of Palestinian protesting going on around Ottawa the last few days for sure.
Yeah, I would. I won't be attending either side protests and any of that. I'll be spectating from my computer.
I'd be happy to give you an update about the camp. It's really peaceful. It's growing. There seems to be a good atmosphere there. It's very early stages. They're still determining what they want to do. I can tell you with all the other protesting going around here, it's complicated things for sure. But no more assaults from the police over the last little bit. I'm not even aware of tickets right now. But right now, it seems to be like a good group of people coming together to be peaceful, and they're trying to work out what the next steps are going to be.
And I could briefly speak to that as well. I had been at the camp originally. I think it was either the first day they got here in town, maybe the next day after that, before the incident that a lot of people have seen.
The drive over for the one? Yeah,
sure. That one. So it was smaller back then. There was a couple of vehicles and people were mixed. But I visited again for the second time Saturday evening. And I want to say I got there about 9 o'clock at night, and the experience was the best experience that I've had in regards to just recharging my soul and my hope in our country and community since the Freedom Convoy. It was a beautiful experience. There was at least 100 vehicles. Not that it matters, but the people were so positive, and so there was such a sense of hope in the air that it did recharge my battery a little bit. I was totally blown away, a total night and day from the first day that I went to Saturday night. I went back on Sunday. Crowd thinned out just a bit, but same spirit, same determination. I did have one criticism though. Why does this always have to happen in the cold? Why can't we do it when it's nice and sunny? But it was beautiful. I loved it.
The funny thing is I stepped out of the house today, and it's the first time of the year where outside was actually cooler than inside. I'm like, holy crap, it's winter in Florida now. It was 78 degrees outside. It's freezing. It's October. It's mid-October, and you guys are having shorter days and colder weather, although the trees behind you don't look like the leaves have started changing yet. Maybe a bit.
No, Ottawa, they're a little bit slower here.
No comment. I don't want to get arrested. All right, amazing, guys. Fantastic. Anything else?
No, but thank you very much for your time, David.
Well, thank you. No, it's more. Thank you for coming on. I know you guys you have a tight timeline, and you got to get this word out. So thank you for coming on anytime, and you come back soon, please.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks.
All right, guys, have a good day. All right, I'm going to put the links. I'm going to put their links up afterwards when I finish this. But what I want to do beforehand, I want to actually just play the entire Zexy Lee clip while I take that time to go see if I can find the other Zexy Lee clip, which is Zexy Lee talking about the reprisals. Where is it? Oh, for son of a bee sting, I know that I have it here. Let me just go back and get that clip. We're going to play that. If anybody out there has the Zexy Lee clip where they were talking about their reprisals, I would love to find that before they come back for lunch so that we can maybe get that in the hands of the defense, although I suspect they have all of their exhibits lined up for we don't call it impeaching a witness, but for that process. Okay, this is mine. Listen for the pause. Okay, let's just play this one more time, all the way through, and I'm going to take this time to... Also, everybody, we're going to go to Rumble after this, and we got other stuff to talk about.
Second to the hallway, my bathroom was a little quieter, so I got some peace there as well.
So would you say that you felt unsafe walking the streets?
I couldn't say that because it would be a lie, and I would be.
I didn't feel safe, but it's hard to describe it as unsafe at the same time because I was actively being so cognizant of my surroundings, and I'm fast. I can move very fast. So, I was always ready to, take myself out of a situation where something might happen.
Such
and
a hero.
like a lot of the times when they're bouncing their trucks and their cars and
Bouncing like it's like gang members. It's like with
I don't know how to describe it other than like roaring at us, like roaring at me with like these large giant vehicles. It's the idea was to move quick and get where you needed to go. And that was the intention, and that's what you really had to do, I think, to stay safe, because when you didn't take your time, they would always get to you, like maybe not in the sense that you're thinking, but they would try and come up to you and convince you that they were doing the right thing. And they would say to me, on more than one occasion, I would try and plead with them because, there's a certain desperation in being left in that kind of situation where the people that are supposed to help you weren't helping you. And it was just ongoing for really it was going to be an unknown period of time, because really every day I woke up and I hoped that it was over, and it never was. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little there.
Yeah, it's what happens when you make up stories. Okay, now hold on one second, people. Hold on one second, because I believe I found it's not my tweet, but it is the tweet. Hold on. I think this is it, and then we're going to go over to the Rumbles for the rest of this stream, and then we're going to go over to Locals afterwards for the after party. Hold on. Let me bring it up. I think this is it. Here we go. Yeah, this looks like it. This is from the commission. Zexy Lee's testimony.
And because of this closeness I heard a lot of their stories, and more so, I heard a lot of their frustrations. Mm-hmm. And as egg throwing began to occur from my building.
I'm so cute the way I describe it. Passively. It just started occurring. It's raining eggs. We weren't doing it. It just started occurring.
Egg throwing began to occur from my building. I felt that, we really needed a medium to at least express what was happening to us so that we could feel at the very least heard and maybe diffuse some of
So
tensions.
we decided to throw eggs.
Sorry, can you describe what you mean by the egg throwing?
Yeah, please.
Well, there were very large trucks parked everywhere.
I'm so cute.
In some of these instances, they were parked right next to some high-rise condo buildings. And as a result, some people may have gotten some cartons of eggs and,
so
had
cute.
their little retaliation.
And
frustration, because really, what else could they do?
Other than commit assault. Because throwing an egg under ordinary circumstances is assault. If they had their little cartons of eggs and it's February and they're on the balcony and they froze solid and then I don't know if that happened. I can just reasonably anticipate it's a possibility. We just had our little retaliation. I'm so cute.
And when that incident occurred, I remember the police actually came to my building to inquire about the egg throwing.
Did you get arrested?
Made by the truckers.
Did any of you get charged, arrested, brought to trial for your little retaliation? Hell no, because that's mischief, but the right kind of mischief.
And I remember that I felt it as an affront, and that a lot of my neighbors felt it as an affront as well when they were investigating
Our
something
assault.
like this, and
They're investigating
everything
us.
that was happening to us, and what they were really ignoring in a lot of their statements and releases to the public.
I'm sorry.
And as a result, I decided to organize a meeting with a number of residents in my building with some Ottawa Police community liaison officers.
Yeah.
Just so we could have a recorded account of what our experiences were.
Of
and
throwing
really
eggs.
To, again, diffuse the tension. And
By throwing eggs.
really concretely say, you know what's happening here. We are telling you this. This is our experience,
This
and
is our
we
experience.
really desperately need help because things have gone on too long, and the residents, honestly, they had wanted to fight back because they felt that nobody else was doing anything for them.
Your Honor, I'd like to present as Exhibit TL3 Zexi Lee admitting that they committed assault. Hey, Zexi, when you say you felt unsafe, was that before or after you were throwing eggs from high-rise buildings onto parked cars? Just want to know. Oh, okay, so here's the link to the tweet. I tweeted it out, so everybody can go get that as well. And I had the video, but I found it through someone else's. Canadian Riley from, we'll see if this gets a little bit of traction. Maybe it finds its way into the cross-examination. All right, with that said, we've been on YouTube for far too long already. This is more time than YouTube deserves after my re-education. Let's go to Rumble. I'm going to give everybody the link. There are 553 people here that should be migrating over to the Rumbles. I'll wait for it to go down in number once, and then we're going to end it on YouTube. Go over to Rumble. If you want to come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where, if I can find the link, it'd be much easier to share. Let me give that to you as well, so you can just come straight to Locals. We've picked our have our winner for the new Locals Convo. That is a local supporter who doesn't mind having an interview with me, talking about their lives. It's going to be on the internet forever. Why is the number going up? The number went up to 558. The number needs to go down on YouTube so we can leave here and then go over to Rumble. Come on over to Rumble or vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where the rest of the stream, we're going to talk Trump, Dylan Mulvaney, and some other stuff that's going on in the world. I need to see the number go down on YouTube in order for me to leave in good conscience. I'm getting ready to remove it. 550, 503. We're done. Adios, YouTube. You can get the leftovers tomorrow when I post the entire stream replay, as I do on Twitter as well. But let's go. vivabarneslaw.locals.com or Viva Frei on Rumble. 3, 2, 1.